Good morning and welcome to Charlie's Corner. We're picking up on part 2 of Anthony Alexander and his story. And this morning we're going to start out with the Tuscarora Wars, and we'll talk about Blackbeard. So let's begin. First of all, here's an actual photograph of the site where the cabin was. All right, and see all these woods? All of this was covered with these woods like this, and he had to clear all this stuff like this out of there to be able to farm this. And then this is what's left. That's what's left of where the cabin was. We also have another picture I'll show you. All right, here's the graveyard, and you can actually see some of the headstones here. All right, this is the Alexander graveyard. There in the back, that's where the house was, and there's the graveyard right here. All right, and now we move on to that pesky Indian problem. In 1711, the Tuscarora Indians actually attacked the settlers there. Fort Landing, there used to actually be a stockade that they built at Fort Landing. And Fort Landing was right in here. This was Fort Landing. You come in from the Alligator River. This is the Little Alligator River. And they landed at Fort Landing, and then this is the trail right here that used to be there, and now it's a little road, all right, that goes off to the Alexander land. They also had all this was Alexander one plantation. There was a plantation up here that was Alexander plantation, but they had a stockade that they built right here to defend because they were afraid the Indians and pirates would come into here, and so they built a log stockade right here to defend this landing right here, so they couldn't get in. And that was Fort Landing. So when the Tuscarora Indians came in and massacred some of the settlers, they all got together and they pushed them just a little bit west, over into what's now Bertie County. The governor of North Carolina province at that time actually got Colonel, I think it was a Colonel Monroe from South Carolina. He brought a regiment of volunteers from South Carolina up to North Carolina along with some Yamasee Indians, and they wiped the Tuscarora out. They killed like 900 Tuscarora people in that battle, and they ended up shipping them off. Some of them went up and joined their families, and they're up in the Iroquois. They were Iroquois Indians, and so they went back up to New York. A lot of them got sold off into slavery and ended up down in the Caribbean, in Bahamas and Barbados and down there, and they had to work the sugarcane fields down there as slaves. But they were all shipped off, and that sort of took care of the Indian problem. By 1715, that was when the war ended, and there was no more Indians left anywhere in that whole area of North Carolina. They were all shipped out. Now, in 1714, a guy named Charles Eden became governor, and he had two seats of power. He split his time between Bath, the town of Bath, and the town of Edenton, which is now Edenton, but at that time it was known as the township of Queen Anne's Creek. I'm going to show you that on the map. But first, let me tell you what happened was that King Charles II, I believe it was, gave him permission to issue pardons. And so he sent a message to Edward Teach down in Bahamas about that he would give him a pardon if he came up there. Well, Edward Teach thought that was a pretty good idea because of the deal they worked out. And the deal was, if Edward Teach would get his official pardon, and then he comes up and he stays in North Carolina under the protection of the governor, right? Now, he doesn't give up pirating. He still goes out, and he, especially up in the Chesapeake Bay area, and he still loots ships. Brings all that booty back down to North Carolina. And then Charles Eden had his Secretary of the State of the province was Tobias Knight. And Tobias Knight actually ran a market in Bath. And so Blackbeard would bring his booty down, unload it at Bath. Tobias Knight would sell it through the black market, sell it all the booty, and the money would go to Blackbeard and his crew, and then the governor, Charles Eden, would get a cut, and Tobias would get a cut. Quite a good arrangement there. And in return, then Blackbeard had a safe haven to stay at, supposedly. That's not how it turned out. Let me show you on the map. Okay, so Blackbeard comes up from Charleston. He's on his way up. He stops at Charleston, harasses them, blocks off that harbor for a while. Then he comes up to Charleston, and he pulls right into here, into Bath. All right. When he first came up, he actually had 3 ships and about 200 crew. He had a fleet, okay? But he ran his ship, Queen Anne's Revenge, ran her up on a sandbar down by Beaufort, and ended up with a couple of smaller sloops. And then he home based right here in Bath. Married a woman, Blackbeard. Edward Teach actually married a woman here and had a house in Bath. It's even said that Governor Charles Eden attended the wedding. All right. But he would sail out and sail through the outlet here, go up into Virginia, raid those ships up there, and then bring all the booty back down, bring it in here, bring it into Bath, and they'd sell it through the black market right here. All right. And he was known to, let me pull this up just a little bit there. He was actually, Blackbeard hung out a lot. He would have his big parties out here on Ocracoke, this little island of Ocracoke. And so I actually started thinking about something. Like I said, Charles Eden sometimes was up here in Edenton and sometimes down in Bath. And it's documented that Blackbeard actually went up and met with Charles Eden up here a number of times. And how did he get there? He would have had to sail his sloop down here, around this side of Roanoke, and then down the Albemarle Sound, and then into here. Now, I know that from here to here is it takes 1 day to sail that far. So you're talking about a 3 to 4 day trip. So he would have had to sail to Bath. From Bath, he would have had to sail to Ocracoke, stay the night, and then from there he would have sailed up to about Stumpy Point, right? And then the next day he would have made it to like right about here. He wouldn't have made it all the way. You can't make it from here to there in 1 day. He would have had to only make it to about here. Well, guess what that place is? Look at this. That's where the Alexander Plantation was. All right. So I wonder, it makes me wonder, did he stop there for the night? Did Anthony Alexander actually know Blackbeard? I mean, they were there at the same time. They were alive at the same time. They were in the same area at the same time. And Blackbeard was sailing down this Albemarle Sound during this time. And he was living right here. And this would have been the extent that Blackbeard could have gone in a day. So either he stayed at this, pulled into this dock here with the Albemarle, with the Alexander Plantation, or he pulled into the Scuppernong River and stayed at the where they had this trading post right here. By then there was a trading post here where Columbia is right now. So I don't know. That's kind of interesting to think about. They may have actually met in person. Okay, I was going to show you, this is the present day town of Edenton right here, and this is Queen Anne's Creek right here. And so this town was originally, there were some settlers that were here, and they were known as the it was known as Queen Anne, the town of Queen Anne's Creek. All right, before it was Edenton. It was named after Edenton in 1722 after Charles Eden had died. Interesting side note, see where Highway 32 crosses the Queen Anne's Creek? Well, right there, my grandparents used to live right there. And my dad grew up on this river, this little creek. He used to go play in this creek all the time when he was a kid. And now, what happened to Blackbeard? Well, we have to pan out for that. So what happened was that there's the governor. Okay, Blackbeard's staying at Bath down here, and he's going out and he's raiding ships up in the Chesapeake Bay. Well, the governor of Virginia, Alexander Spotswood was his name, and he gets tired of this crap. So he sends a regiment of troops down by land from Virginia down by land to Bath, because he don't know if Blackbeard is in Bath or if he's out in Ocracoke. So Blackbeard could either be at Bath or at Ocracoke. And so he sends some troops down by land to Bath to intercept him there. And then he also sends down a Lieutenant Maynard by water. He came down in 2 sloops, came in through the channel and came down to Ocracoke. Well, at that time, Blackbeard happened to be at Ocracoke, and so he met up with Lieutenant Maynard there, and they had a battle. Blackbeard fought Lieutenant Maynard and all their men. They had a battle there in the Pamlico Sound. Blackbeard sustained 22 saber cuts and 5 shots before he was brought down. He was an animal, okay? Maynard ended up cutting his head off, put it on the bow of his sloop, and went back up to Virginia, and Blackbeard's head was displayed at Williamsburg, Virginia for some time after that. And that was the end of Blackbeard. That was in 1718. So what happened to Charles Eden? Well, the same thing that happens to politicians today when they break the law. Let me show you. There was a big controversy in the courts after all this took place with Blackbeard getting finally killed. And they found some of the stores that Blackbeard had stolen in Charles Eden's barn and in Tobias Knight's barn. They found some of this these stores that were stolen, but they never got prosecuted for anything. It was all swept under the rug because Charles Eden, what he did is he caused a distraction. He's like, well, it's against the law for, Spotswood to send troops down into another colony into North Carolina. That's against the law. He can't do that. And so finally, with the whole mess, it was finally just swept under the table. And so Charles Eden just got off scot-free. And Blackbeard was basically the fall guy So yeah, that's what happens. That's pretty exciting. My ancestor, 10 generations up, Anthony Alexander, I don't have any proof, but he might have actually known Edward Teach. It's possible. You know, Edward Teach, Edward Teach was actually a privateer. Pirates weren't called, they were called privateers. He started out just raiding Spanish and French ships, okay? Edward Teach, Blackbeard, was English. And so the Spanish and the French ships were fair game back then, all right? The only time you considered a pirate is if you raided English ships, which he did when he moved to North Carolina. He would go up into the Chesapeake Bay area and he would raid English ships then. But he started out as a privateer, just like Sir Francis Drake, who is celebrated as an explorer and as a knight for Queen Elizabeth I, who a hero of the Spanish the Spanish and English War, the Spanish Armada. He devastated the Spanish Armada, and he's a hero. But he was a pirate, like Blackbeard, just like Blackbeard. It's crazy how history records things. Depends on who's doing the writing, doesn't it? All right, let's wrap it up here. And we'll move on with the story in my next video. We've got Anthony Alexander and Sarah Ann are established in Tyrrell County on the south shore of the Albemarle Sound. 14 kids, and he's cleared up, by the time he dies, he's cleared up about 2,700 acres by hand. Quite a man. Living through the Indians and the bears, the alligators, draining off swamps. You don't get that caliber of man anymore. And the wife, Sarah Ann, what about her? Okay, you think today you're going to find a woman that's going to, you know, get married, like would marry me, and then I'd say, okay, well, we're moving to Alaska, and we're going to go out in the freaking wilderness where there's no people, and we're going to set up shop there. We're going to have, you know, I'll clear some land, we'll farm that. No, it's not going to happen. Those women don't exist anymore. And so, anyways, you have a great day. We'll pick up the story again on the next video, and I'll see you next time on Charlie's Corner.